Evening, everybody. We'll get started in just a moment. While we're waiting to get started, please, if you're welcome to everybody coming from other schools, make sure that your name make sure your name in Zoom is the same as your name. And if you're visiting from another school, please just put in brackets as well the school that you're visiting from, because it's really cool to get an idea where we're getting visitors from. So welcome, everybody. Make sure your name is in there. If you young guys, make sure you've got your initial in there as well, because we've sometimes got a number of people with the same name. And turn your cameras on if you can. If you can't, we can do our best with that. But if you can turn your cameras on, it enables us to give you feedback. So it's worthwhile doing so if you can. Looks like we've got, oh.
Yeah. So I've just got to go fill my drink bottle up.
Thank you, sir. See you shortly. We've just got people still joining us. Okay. Yes, if there are two of you, please just put both names in. My wife will be taking attendance, so it helps if you got both names in there for her. Okay. Oh, what awesome people we've got tonight. This is wicked. Love it. Okay, so just a reminder for those of you that have just joined us, please try and make sure that your name is the name that's in the showing up on screen. And if you're visiting from another club, put your club in there as well, so we know who's coming from. Awesome. Okay, let's get started. Up. Come here. Take one. Rotating wrists. Just another little point, guys. Doing these sessions by Zoom is really hard. It's part of the reason we're doing a 1 hour class rather than a 90-minute class. Change direction. It's really hard to come up with ideas to do. So if you've got any ideas of something that would work, please email me. Elbows, because I'd love to try and keep this a little bit interesting for you, or as interesting as I can. So if you've got some ideas, email them through. I'm happy to take ideas. Change direction. And once again, just make sure your name is the same as your name. And if you're visiting, let us know where you're visiting from. We've got a couple of people I'm not sure about who have only got their first names in the list. It's arms back. It's quite hard on the little screens for my wife to identify who everyone is.
Mark, we use this for too many people. I can't change the name. Is that all right?
Arms forward. That's fine, Mrs. Gold.
Thank you.
But I have a mark here where I can see a TV screen and not a mark, so I don't know who it is. And torso. Left ankle. Change direction. And change foot. Change direction. Hands on knees, down, and back, down, and back, down, back. Of course, those of you, if you've got knee injuries or anything, any injuries you've got, just work within your limitations. Don't go do anything that's going to make things worse.
Yeah, my knee cracks didn't sound that good either.
And circling outwards. Keep your hands up by your brain. And inwards. Great to see some repeating visitors. It's awesome. Welcome, guys. Hips. Change direction. Aiden, are you alone there or is your sister there too? I can only see you on camera. Okay, from here, hands up by your brain. We're going to do some squats. Remember when you're doing air squats, you can turn your feet out a little bit. It's not like a parallel stance. It doesn't have to be. Duck your bum out first. Keep your torso as upright as you can. Squat down to 90 degrees and then stand up again. Ready. Hands by your brain. 20. Go. Don't rush. Try and keep that torso up. Ben, I think you're a visitor. If you don't mind just whacking your club name next to your name on the screen, that would be really helpful. Okay, if not, just give us your family name so we can tell who you are. Okay, crunches. Sitting down, legs bent, feet flat on the floor, touch your ankles. Curl back, keep your core engaged, and curl back up and touch your ankles. So we're not doing a full sit-up, we're just crunching. 20, go. When you are training online, guys, it's important not to use virtual backgrounds because you often get out of frame and we can't see you. So turn your backgrounds off so we can give you feedback. Okay, next one. Lying on your back, feet straight up in the air. I'm going to curl my lower abdomen, the bit where you get kicked with that front snap kick, and my feet will lift up about 2 centimeters. So I'm using my lower abs, not my legs. 20, go. I shouldn't see big swings. It's only a little movement. Ben, you're welcome to put that your full name into chat. That'll help as well. If you can't change the name on your screen, just whack it into chat. And your club. Okay. Push-ups. Hands just under your shoulders. Don't go too fast. Keep your body nice and tight. 20, go. Okay, then laying your stomach, you can turn your belt out to the side. And from here, using your back muscles to lift your upper and lower upper body and your legs off the ground. 20 of those. Go. Okay. Now, in the last couple of classes, we've done work on using the hip to develop power in your kicks. So coordinating your hip with your leg so that you're not bringing your leg up and then kicking out with your hips stationary. It's part of the same motion. So we're going to do 10 kicks each leg using that power of the hip. So kick, guarding block. Just front snap kicks to start with. Go. Feel the hip power. Make sure you're coordinating it.
I'll just let you know, sir, I've got a torn ligament in my hip, so if I'm not doing something...
Absolutely, ma'am. No problem at all. Don't make any injuries worse. Watch your foot angles. Keep your guard up when you're kicking, Nate. Come on, put some effort in your kicks. Feel everything together. Make sure that foot's coming off your hip. Mr. R, you've got a little bit too much weight on that back leg rather than 70%. So you can probably make your stance a little bit longer so that your weight's about here. Your belt hangs about here rather than over the leg. So take a look at yourself in the camera. You'll see at the moment, sometimes your hips are too far back here. Now check. See your weight's over your leg. Just bring it in forward a bit. Go a little bit further. Make your stance just like half a foot width longer. Make your stance a tiny bit longer and let your hip come forward with it. Yeah, cool, that's better. Okay. Same thing, hip involved in your dolachagi this time. From here, lift your knee and foot and up nice and high. Body, hip, foot. And seniors, of course, your shoulders are independent. So hip, knee, foot. Make sure you're getting everything from here behind your kick, not just lifting up and popping your leg out. Okay, so 10 kicks each leg with strong guarding block. Go. Come on, Max, keep kicking. Lift your knee and foot. Make sure your kicking path is horizontal. Don't stop that hip, Zach. Your legs coming up and then your hips flicking out. It's got to work together. knee, hip. Sorry, hip, knee. Hip comes up, knee then follows as part of the same kick. So the power, you got to feel the mass of your core going into your kick, not being held back. So you have to pivot your supporting foot. You cannot do a strong kick with that supporting foot not pivoted. Okay, now yopchagi. We're going to start just doing 5 yopchagi each leg with the front leg. From here, lift, I've got to pivot. That supporting foot has to pivot away from my kick. Seniors will know it's 75 degrees. And then I have to explode and get my hip going in the direction of my kick. Okay, so try with the front leg first. 5 kicks each leg, and then go with the back leg. Feel the power of your hip flowing through into the kick. Go. 5 each leg with the front leg, then 10 each leg with the back leg. Lift your knee and foot. Don't let your knee be lower than your foot. Jack, keep that backhand by your brain when you kick. So from my guarding block, if I lift the backhand up to my brain, it will help me with balance. Of course, in your pattern for green belts, blue belts, you're pulling it back to your hip with a high punch. So you can try that as well. Smash the kick out. It is strong. You're destroying the target, not giving it a love touch. Vid, I can't see you when you're off screen, young man. Try and keep your body as upright as you can. Try not to lean over like this with your side kicks. Your body as upright as you can. You have to physically lean a bit, but don't lean too far. Smash the kick out. More acceleration, Isabel. It looks nice. You want to make sure that from here out to there is as quick as I can. Relax on the way up, explode on the way up. So I accelerate from floor to target. Oh, Diogo, good to see you feeling better. Lift that knee up, Diogo, lift the knee. Don't kick with your knee down like this. Here. And pause a moment. I can tell you as an examiner that we would much rather see a good strong side kick here than a bad side kick up here. So work on your technique first, knee and foot high, smash up to your target. As you train, your strength will gradually increase and you'll get to kick higher. So good strong kicks with the knee up. Don't drop the knee to kick higher. Keep the knee up and kick a little lower if you need to. Couple more each leg, go. The side kicks are awesome. Straighten that leg out, Jack. Load and straighten the leg. Ved, get that backhand by your jaw. I want to see stronger side kicks, not just waving your leg around. From here, kick. Picture what you're doing. Explode. Try and keep that top shoulder up. Try not to drop it down when you're kicking. Keep the top shoulder back. Cool. And come on. Grab a drink.
So which shoulder did you say shouldn't drop?
The top one.
Ah, okay.
So you want to keep it open. So your body's facing sideways when you kick. You're not turning down towards the floor. Keep the top shoulder open.
Okay.
Cool. Good question. Okay. As I said at the start, it's really hard to keep a Zoom class engaging because there's a lot we can't do, right? We can't do pad work, we can't do releasing techniques, there's a lot we can't do. So if you've got any cool ideas, please email them to me. What we're about to do was fortunately something that I was considering doing anyway. And then one of our students, Dr. Y, emailed and said, oh, could we do this? And I thought that's right on topic for what I wanted to do tomorrow. And I can simply add that to what I was going to do. So we're going to do it now. We're going to work on turning, particularly in patterns and technical turning. So we're going to start with spot turning and step turning, which is required knowledge for yellow stripe. Then we're going to work on turning specifically in patterns, okay, and how to play around with that a little bit. So to start with, the spot turn is named because you're not going forwards or backwards with the turn. Okay, you're not going forwards or backwards. So a spot turn, well, the first type is when you pivot on the front foot or the back foot. So from here, you'll see that I'm not going to go forwards or backwards. I'll actually go sideways. This way. Now I want you to think about your sine wave when you're doing this. My body weight is transferring to the front leg and I'm dropping down. As I do that, I'm pivoting on the ball of my foot. When I'm facing about 45 degrees the other way, I can then rise up and explode with my hip into the movement. So from here, 1, 2. Doing it facing the other way. So you can see 1, 2. Okay. So I want you to try that initially without any hands. Just keep your hands up. 1, 2. Think about how to get the hip involved, pivoting on the ball of the foot. If I pivot on the back foot, 1, 2. Go. Start with no hands. When you're comfortable that you've got the motion and the hip movement correct, then start doing a hand technique. Do some basic blocks, some strikes, whatever you want to do. When you're comfortable in walking stance, start doing different stances. So you got to turn around and face the opposite direction without going forwards or backwards. That was a forward step turn, Mr. R. Not a spot turn. So watch again. If I have my foot up against, almost up against the wall here, I can still do my spot turn. Okay, so I've got my foot up against this. I need some room for my pivot. That's my spot turn. Rather than a step turn, which we'll get onto later. Make sense? Cool. Yeah, that's it. Okay, but I'm just watching you as well, checking that you're not doing a full step. So show me once more. And if you can go towards the door a bit, that'd be awesome. Yeah, now I can see your feet. Yep. Yeah, cool. Lovely. Go. Ah, sweet. You're flying good. On the camera angle I had before, I wasn't sure. Any questions? Just unmute and ask. Pause for a moment. So we've got spot turn pivoting on the front foot. You can also do spot turn pivoting on the back foot. Same thing, I'm not going forward or backwards, I'm just pivoting. So do a few of those, go. And now you can start adding your hand techniques. You might do forearm low blocks, you might do chukyamaki, you might try some spot turns with punches. You might do a spot turn into L stance and do a knife hand side strike. Start mixing it up. You know what you're doing? Christian, yes.
How would you spot turn with something that is like very, very heavily back foot reliant, like the rear foot stance or something?
Yeah, that's a good question. So Dweeb Balsog in particular, everything else is pretty straightforward. So vertical stance and things like that, it's just exactly the same. Rear foot stance is a bit more unusual, but you've already got the ball of foot on the ground, so it's kind of the same thing. So from here.
But with less, like almost less hip movement.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Depending on the movement, yeah, it can be quite hard to get hip motion involved. From here, from trying to get hip, I can get a little bit, but it's much, much harder because you've got less opportunity. So you've got to rely on rear foot stance, you rely a lot more on your sine wave to get the power. But depending on the movement, you might be able to get a better hip. It just takes playing. It's a good question.
Right, thanks, sir.
Okay, come on. So that's spot turn, pivoting on the front foot, or spot turn, pivoting on the back foot. They're both spot turns. The other type of spot turn is a spot turn, moving your foot onto the center line. First done in Dosan. From here, I imagine that there's a line coming past from my heel and a line down the center of gravity. And then I step so that the ball of my foot goes on that cross. Then pivot and turn. This is a spot turn because I'm not moving forwards or backwards. It's not a step turn. 1 and 2. That's how you do it in Dosan. In Yushin, you first do it stepping the rear foot. 1, 2. Okay? So try a few variations of that. If you're doing stances like L stance, the same principle applies. It gets a little bit harder in rear foot stance. Okay, so start with walking stance, do some spot turns. Actually, before you do, note that from here, just like with the other spot turn, when I put my foot on the ground, I'm facing 45 degrees this way. Then I pivot 45 degrees this way and explode into my movement. Be very careful that you don't do this. You see it a lot in Dosan. I've already turned my hip. It's not correct. From here, my hip is this way. Pivot, it's this way. Explode into my movement. So don't step that front foot when you step across. Don't step it sideways. Step it on a 45-degree angle. Then pivot. Go. Start feet only. Then add hands. So when you move that front foot back, it's 45 degrees. When I transfer my body weight, I pivot the opposite direction and then explode into my stance. Using my hip. This is a spot turn, moving the front foot on the center line. Or in some patterns, of course, the center line has a name. So it might be a spot turn, moving your front foot on line AB. Or a spot turn, moving your front foot on line CD. The epine, just watch for a moment. At the moment, you've got a tendency for your hips and your arms to be moving in the same pace. So you're doing this. I'll show you this way. What I want you to try and do is separate your hips from your shoulders and let your hips start first. Creates like a whipping motion. Your hip goes first and then your hands have to catch up because your muscles around your core are a little bit slower. So you go as fast as you can with this bit and your arms are much faster. So they have to catch up, which makes your arms move faster, which creates more acceleration and therefore creates more power. So from here, hip, and then hands full up in like a whipping motion. Try that.
Sir?
Yes, sir.
With L stance, is it more just moving your foot backwards than into the center line, really?
It is actually the center line as well. But of course,
like it's much less of a movement.
It is much less of a movement. Yes. Yeah. You've still got the length coming back, but you've got far less across movement. Far less. You're absolutely right. Just a couple of centimeters, really. Now, all of these, pause for a moment. Make sure here you've got both knees and both arms bent during the motion. Pivot. Now I can do my backward motion and then explode into my finished position, getting my hip involved. So I've got sine wave and hip power where I can. 1, 2. Okay. Relax both your arms and legs and bend here. Ball of the foot goes on the ground. Then pivot, wind up, and explode into the next movement, whatever it may be. Go. Feel that sine wave. Feel the hip where you can. There are a lot of movements where you can't use the hip, but where you can, let the hip lead, then the arms follow to explode. Get power from your core. Make sure you're a little tense with your shoulders. Relax your shoulders down. You're doing a spot turn, pivoting on the front foot there, Max. For this one, I've got to do a spot turn. I've got to move my foot. My foot's got to come in a bit and then step and turn. Okay. And come on. Okay. So they're both types of spot turn. If you look in the condensed encyclopedia, there's a third example of a spot turn, but it says don't use it, it's rubbish. So we only do the first two. Okay, so pivoting on the front foot and back foot is one, or stepping the front foot of the rear foot onto the center line is two. Then step turns are where you're moving an entire stance either forwards or backwards. Okay, that's a step turn. First done, of course, in Chonji. Now, these are challenging because you have to get your center of gravity right when you're turning. And you do that most easily by keeping your arms and legs bent during the turn. When you're about 45 degrees from your target, that's when you do your upward motion, rise up and explode into your position. Okay, so when you pivot, ball the foot, keep the body down, and then rise up and explode into the movement. And try and do that in one smooth motion. The most difficult thing about step turns is that the names don't correspond very well with your body movement. So if I'm going forward, it's a forward step turn. If I'm going backward, it's a backward step turn. That's easy. But the other part of it is clockwise or counterclockwise, the direction I rotate. Now, watch. I'm going to do for you 2 forward step turns clockwise. Notice that this one, I'm turning towards my back. But if I now change feet, I'm turning towards my front. So it depends which leg is forward. So you have to always cognitively think which way's clockwise, which way's counterclockwise. Hopefully you don't have to think which way's forward and which way's backwards. Hopefully that's okay. But when the instructor says forward step turn clockwise, I've always got to pause and think which way's clockwise because my body movement feels different depending on which foot's at the front. That's why I've got a forward step turn clockwise. And if I change feet, I'll be turning towards my back. When I'm stepping forwards, I've got a backwards, sorry, that was right. Good. Okay. I've got a forward step turn counterclockwise. Or if I've got my other foot forward, again, I'm stepping towards my back. So that makes it quite hard to think about. If I'm doing a backward step turn, I'm moving backward. That's the easy bit. If I'm going clockwise, if I've got my right foot forward, it's just like Chonji. If I've got my left foot forward, I'm going to be turning towards my front. Or I can go counterclockwise. And if I change feet, counterclockwise is this way. Okay, so I'm going to test everybody first. Everyone face the camera. Hands on your hips. Right foot forward. Give yourself a little bit of space in front. And do a forward step turn clockwise. Go. So you should all have stepped forwards, turned towards your front, and turned around and face the other way. Okay, so forward step turn clockwise. Good. Okay, now change feet. Now do a forward step turn clockwise. Go. Which way's clockwise? And step forwards and go that way. So yes, you're turning towards your back. But I'm taking a step forward as I turn around. Okay, turning towards my back. Okay. Now, right leg forward, give yourself some space behind you this time. Now do a backward step turn clockwise. Here's a hint, just like Chonji. So take a step back and turn around towards your back. That's it. Cool. Now change legs. Then do a backward step turn clockwise. Okay, so Mackay, that's it. Now change legs, Mackay. Now do a backward step turn clockwise. That's counterclockwise. A backward step turn is like this, clockwise. If I go counterclockwise, it's like this. Tricky, huh? So what I want you to do for a couple of minutes now is just do some variations, but think about what you're doing. I'm going to do a backward step turn clockwise, that way. I'm going to do a forward step turn counterclockwise. Watch your space. I'm going to do a forward step turn counterclockwise. A backward step turn counterclockwise. Okay, so think about what you're doing and step through a few variations for about 1 minute. Go. Which way's clockwise? Which way's forward? Which way's backward?
Sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, I got the last like clockwise backwards one wrong. I don't know how I got it wrong the whole time.
Okay, so from your stance, the first question is, am I going forwards? Am I stepping forwards or am I stepping backwards? That's the first question. Then the second question is, when I turn, will I turn my body clockwise or counterclockwise? So if I'm going to take a step backwards that way, clockwise is around this direction. So I take a step backwards and turn around clockwise. Does that make sense? Okay. As I say, this is required knowledge for yellow stripe. Black belts. You can move on to forward double step turns, clockwise and counterclockwise. So from here, if I'm doing a forward double step turn clockwise, you'll recognize that from Kwong. But if I've got my right leg forward, I'm turning counterclockwise. Or I can go counterclockwise and clockwise here. So I'm turning the other way. I can also do a backward double step. Now with double stepping, of course, you step to the side front of the other foot. But of course, I can turn either way. So try that, black belts. So it's the same principle, but you're taking 2 steps instead of 1. And the first step is step to the side front of the other foot. So I'm stepping here, just like you do in Kwong. But keep your feet 45 degrees here, and then you pivot. It gets fun. Now add your hands and your hips and your sine wave, whether you're doing colored belts doing step turns or black belts doing double step turns. Now add your sine wave, your explosive power, whatever movement you're doing, add your own hand techniques, I don't care. Try to make it flow. Think about it, you've got to have that center of balance so that you can do it in 1 movement, not 2. You don't want to be stopping part way. So flow right through. So try not to stop halfway. Good, black belts. Now add your hip. Make sure you got that sine wave and hip. Remember, down as you turn. Rise up at 45 degrees and then explode with the hip into the end of the movement, if the movement allows. Do you have a question, Jack? If you haven't, you should be practicing. And come on, good. Okay, so quick spot quiz. Show me a walking stance. Show me a spot turn pivoting on the rear foot. Go. Spot turn pivoting on the rear foot. Good. Okay. And now show me a spot turn moving the front foot on your center line. Like this arm. Just be careful, watch for a moment. Be careful that when you bring your foot in, you don't turn it sideways. When I bring my foot in, it's 45 degrees. Then pivot. Okay, show me a spot turn moving your front foot on the center line. Show me a backward step turn clockwise. Okay. Now, every technique I give you on the turn, I want to see a forearm low block. So try and get your sine wave and your hip involved. Show me a forward step turn clockwise. Adjust your space if you need to. Nice, Mr. Hart. Okay, show me a spot turn moving your rear foot on the center line. Everyone put your left foot forward. Show me a backward step turn clockwise. Okay, now black belts, every time I give you a step turn, you're doing a double step turn. Color belts will do a step turn, you'll do a double step turn. Give yourself some space, left foot forward, do a forward step turn, counterclockwise. Okay, now a forward step turn clockwise. That look like counterclockwise, I'm not 100% sure. Neither am I sure what I asked for. I got lost in the middle. Okay, show me a backward step turn counterclockwise. Okay, everyone put your right leg at the front. Forward step turn counterclockwise. And spot turn pivoting on the rear foot. That was a step turn, Mr. Hart. And come on, grab a drink of water. Now we'll take a couple of sequences from patterns where we're doing turning and work on how we do that and get our power and our sine wave and stuff involved in it. So we'll start with Chonji because we were working on that. So from here, start with a left L stance, forearm low block. Go. And full fist middle punch. Backward step turn clockwise and low block. And punch. Okay, once more. From your left forearm low block. Punch. Try and let this flow. One movement. Go. Punch. Awesome. Okay, now we'll do the second half. From here, L stance in a forearm middle block. Right L stance, of course, with your right leg at the back. Punch. Now pivot into your L stance. Make sure you get a correct stance. So your body weight should be 70% on the back leg. And then punch. Once more. L stance in a forearm middle block. Punch. Backward step turn. Punch. Okay, hopefully you're starting to feel where that balance point is when you turn, putting on the ball of your foot. Now let's do Dangunto from Tsukumaki. Right leg forward. Actually, we'll start from punch. Because here, of course, we can't get the hip motion for Sung Pomakmaki. Right leg forward, right hand high punch. Go. You can't add hip here because your hands are pulling in opposite directions. And again, from right Tsukumaki, right punch rather. Feel that balance point. Lower your body down, rise up at 45 degrees, and drop into your movement. So watch for a moment from here, down, pivot all the way around to 45 degrees. Then I rise up and cross. And then pivot my foot and land into my stance in that down motion. Go, try it a few times. For your high punch. You've got to explode with your sine wave. Pulling those hands apart. Okay, come on. Now try it from Chukyamaki into knife hand side strike. So now you have your hip as well. So right leg forward, Chukyamaki. Try that a few times. Make sure you're using two hands for your right knife hand side strike. From here, cross and pull back. Get your hip in. Kelsey, you're a little bit high with that supporting hand on your hip. Just down onto your hip. It's a little bit up by your ribs.
I'm also wondering, my knife hand and my front foot that lands, both land on the same time, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, everything finishes together. Your hip starts first, but everything finishes together. That's coordination of hand and hip. Good. Okay, cool. Come on, next one. Dosan. Movement 7. From your movement 6, your straight fingers at thrust. From here, movement 7 has 2 parts. First release, then pivot, back for side strike. So now I'm doing 180 degrees. Land in your walking stance. So those of you who are yellow belt, don't worry about it. It's the turn we're working on. So from here, I've got my right leg forward. I'm thrusting straight with my right hand and my left hand just underneath. The first part of movement 7 is pivot, drop that hand palm down, open my hands, cross, explode. Okay, so doing it this way, it's the best angle to get you to see. From here, 1, 2, 3, 4. Back for side strike and walking stance. Okay, feel that balance point on your turn. Okay, do that a few times. Check that you're landing in your walking stance. Nice bend. Get that hip involved. Okay, come on, just watch for a moment. If you've got enough space, go back 1 movement and do the knife hand guarding block. Because I see a lot of people from here going straight to the release. It's a separate movement. Thrust, then release. Separate movement. Make sure it's separate. That thrust, you must finish in a full facing walking stance. So if you have room, do that. Okay, so just practice those movements. Then just copy along. Knife hand guarding block. You can do a punch here instead of a thrust if it's easier. And then turn all the way around, do a back for side strike. And pause. So from here, the same principle as the backward step turn. Sine wave down, 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 down. When I'm 45 degrees is when I rise up. That's when I'm going to do my backward motion and cross, and then explode into my stance. If you rise too early, it's like trying to do a movement in ballet when you're on point on the balls of your feet. We don't have those skills. So from here, 1, down, up, down. Don't rise up until you're 45 degrees. Up, down, and explode. Go. Good. Finishing that walking stance for your thrust. Much better. Then release. Cool. Mr. R, just watch the angle of your back fist. Your fist is turned a little bit too much, so only 1 knuckle will hit. We want it so that the 2 knuckles will hit. Pretty subtle, I know. Cool. Okay, come on. Let's do one yo. From one yo, we're going to do movements 26 and 27. 25 first. So we go bending ready stance, side piercing kick, 45 degrees behind, pivot down here, 45 degrees, rise up, boom, explode. Okay, so make sure from your bending stance, you're doing your sine wave, down, up, down. Make sure you pull back and block. From here, pull back, block. Then my side kick, using my hip to your power, step 45 degrees behind, pivot. My left foot is moving across the 45 degrees, pull back, forearm guarding block. Go. Yellow belts, green stripes and below. Just try this as best you can. This is like a guarding block, but when I do my guarding block, I lift my foot up. Then I do my side kick, step, one shoulder width 45 degrees behind, forearm guarding block. Try and let that movement flow from your walking stance. Down, up, down. One movement. Down, up, down. Kick. Step. Explode. Feel your hip. Feel where you can use that hip. Your hip was a little bit too early there, Dr. Y. So from here, from your turn, I'll do it this way. From your kick, your hip was already finished. So you didn't have a lot left to do your guarding block. So from your kick here, my hip stays back a little bit as I load, and then I explode my hip, and then my hands catch up. Yeah, I saw that. That's awesome. When you first start doing it, you might overcorrect in your L stance. That'll come later. Good, and good man. Okay, there's one more we're going to do, and it's from Jungun, but it also applies to yellow belts for your releasing techniques. Jungun has a lot of foot shifting. Foot shifting for a single foot is when you basically just when you move from one stance to another without changing forward or backward. So this is a foot shift from walking stance to L stance. This is a foot shift from L stance to walking stance. So generating power with your hip there is quite important. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to start with an L stance back for side strike. This is very much like a high grab for yellow belt. Someone's grabbed my wrist. Now, from here, this is exactly how it works in yellow belt. I'm going to relax, take this hand off my hip, drop from here into a walking stance and use my hip. As I do that, I'm dropping my hand straight down, so it's palm up. So from this position here, here. It'll make a natural arc, but this is just this release for yellow belt, adding your body power. As an examiner, quite often, I see people trying to do releases without using their body. You're just trying to use your arms. That's fine if you've got a friend who's the same sort of height that's not holding you very hard. As soon as you get someone really strong and powerful like Mr. R grabbing you like this, there's no way you're going to be able to do this. You have to use your whole body. Okay, so try that from your L stance, drop into your walking stance. As my backward motion, I can't move this hand because Mr. R's got a really firm grip on it. I can move this one though, so it comes off my hip a bit. And then I drop down on my walking stance and drive with all of my power from my core. That's all on top of that grip. And then if you want to, high punch afterwards. Okay, so from here, 1, 2. Feel your body doing the release. Not your arm, it's your body. Go. This is a single foot shift. A beautiful feeling of hip power here. There's a very subtle backward motion with the foot, very subtle. So it paints like a little J on the floor. Or if I've got my right leg forward, it'll be a reverse J, a mirror J. From here in Jungun, it's then a high punch in fast motion. 1, 2. Feel the power of the hip. Go. It should feel so powerful. Relax and explode. Walking stance, walking stance. From your L stance, you're dropping straight into walking stance. And then stay in your walking stance to punch. Just remember, blue belts and above, that in Jungun, it's a high punch. It's eye level after you release. Good. From your L stance, strong walking stance, solid and powerful. Your hips are dropping onto that hand that's grabbed you. And come on. Okay, grab a drink of water. If you've got any questions, unmute and ask while you're taking a drink or before you sip.
For once, I don't need to ask that many questions.
That's okay. I won't think less of you, ma'am, for asking fewer questions.
They're always like these innocent questions, like they sound really dumb, but like sometimes I forget and I'm just like, hold up, wait, which side is it again?
I like your questions, they're awesome. Okay. Let's stretch off. Sitting down, legs out in front of you. Right leg over the top. And then turn your body to the right. So bring your left arm around your knee and your right arm behind you. So we spent a lot of time on turning tonight. Hopefully you still felt you got a decent workout, because I did. And if you don't, then I'm obviously not very fit. Or you weren't working hard enough. We did spot turns, we did step turns, we did turns from patterns. Just taking small sequences is a really good way to improve your patterns. Find the movements that are tricky and practice just those movements again and again and again. And then when you come back and do it in your pattern, it'll be a lot easier. I remember before one of the world championships, watching Mark Trotter do a whole lot of mid-air kicks from his patterns. Just mid-air kick, mid-air kick, mid-air kick. Practice, practice, practice. Sequences of 2 or 3 or 4 movements, like dozens and dozens and dozens of times. And he's world champion, or was until he retired. Or has been, at least. He's awesome. Okay, change your legs. If you're particularly bendy, you can reach that right arm forward here and then tuck it between your legs and reach around behind your back with your left arm and clasp your hands. In yoga, they call that a bind. Nice, Isabel. Keep that left foot flat on the floor though. Sit nice and tall. Remember, every time you breathe out, just try and go a little bit deeper into your stretch. Okay, now leave that right leg up in front of you. Tuck the left leg in beside your groin. Sit up nice and tall and lean forwards. If you're training on a wooden floor or a sticky floor, you might find that that area around your big toe is a bit tender. That happens. It's like red wrists when you're doing releasing techniques. Tough enough. If you're going to a seminar, actually, this is something I learned from Master Pello. If you're going to a seminar where you're expecting to be doing a lot of bouncing or a lot of pivoting on that front foot, wrapping some tape around the lower part of your big toe can save you from the blister and underneath your big toe.
Wouldn't they count that as cheating maybe at a like an event or something?
No, it's just safety, first aid. You're not allowed to strap, that's good thinking, but so you're not allowed to strap ankles or wrists or things in competition. And when you find that if you're talking about competition, you don't really need it because you're on mats and the mats don't have that friction problem. And change. It's more when you're doing free sparring seminars on wooden floors or stretch up and lean your tummy forward towards your knee. Self-defense seminars, all that sort of stuff, and get lots of pivoting and stuff, and that might be a bit harder. Come on, Zach, stretch. I just realized we've got 2 Mr. R's. I'm doing my best because I'm recording these sessions not to use family names, because I'm recording me, I'm not recording you guys. And I don't want to put your names all over the internet. So that's why I'm using first names for the young guys and first initials for adults. Okay, and now try both legs out the front, about a shoulder apart. Stretch up nice and tall and forward. Keep your head up. Keep smiling at me. I like seeing smiles. Make sure you write some notes down in your training notebook. We covered a bit of technical stuff tonight about turning. So write down what you remember about the technical stuff and also any tips that you picked up, anything that felt particularly good. Like if you figured out something that made it a little bit easier to get those turns right, write it down. Write down your aha moments. You always have a training notebook that you can write your notes down in. Okay, and heels in. Breathe in nice and tall, and then pushing down on your knees, just under your knees. You can use your thigh muscles and pull your legs down if you prefer, just whatever works for you to get those knees towards the floor. And now you want to get your tummy button down towards your big toes. Okay, don't arch over so your head's going towards your feet. Lean yourself forward so your tummy's going towards your feet if you want to lean forward. And relax. Turn to the side. Put your trousers down towards your feet. Then lie back on your back. Stick your feet straight up in the air. Point your heels towards the ceiling. And then open your legs out. If you hold on to the bottom parts of your trousers, then you can keep your legs from falling forward. Or you can just use your tummy muscles to do that. But your back should be flat on the floor. Or a slight curl like you're doing a sit-up or a crunch. But don't lift your hips too far off the ground. This is all about keeping those legs open. Make sure your legs are straight. So you push those heels out to keep your legs straight, and then just let your legs hang open. If you're holding the bottom parts of your trousers, you can gently pull down. And pull your legs closed. Roll yourself forward. If you have a soft surface or a cushion, we'll use it. If not, start with your lunge nice and deep this way, raising your backhand up. If you have, you can pop your knee onto the floor and lunge yourself forward and still reach that backhand up behind you. Keep your torso upright. Try not to put your hand on that front knee. It just takes the stretch away. Relax the muscles. I find if I can do it on a soft surface with my knee on the floor, it's easier to relax the areas. And now you can either stand up and do your quadricep stretch, or if you've got a soft surface, you can reach back and grab your ankle and stretch your quadriceps this way. And change legs, lunge first. If you're training yourself and you're doing any work on those explosive kicks, make sure you warm your legs up thoroughly first. It's a really fast, explosive movement. It can be quite damaging in the hamstrings if your muscles are cold. Make sure you warm them up. It's also worthwhile practicing those movements slowly so you can feel with your hip is leading and your leg is naturally flowing on and everything's finishing together. Your hip and your foot finishing on the target at the same time. Reach back for the foot or the ankle better. Stand up and do your quadriceps. Still try and keep your torso upright rather than leaning on that front leg. So you get a good stretch of the quadriceps at the back. And relax. Just rotate your hips a little bit. Just gently loosen off. Change direction. And relax. Arms up, will shake. Nate, is it just you tonight? No, Jess. Oh, there's Jess. Oh, awesome. Thought you were there, Jess. I just was looking out for you for the hip movements because last night they were great. Tuesday they were hilarious. Okay, now just before we finish up, if you've got this book, the White Belt Handbook, make sure you're reading through it. Seeing as if you haven't got this book, it's actually a really good book to have because there's a lot of really good details in here. Things like unless you've got the encyclopedia, it's all in the encyclopedia. The training secret of Taekwondo, the bit about the theory of power, little explanations of that. We've got definitions of heights and body lines. There's a lot of really good technical theory in here that you should all know. Directions, sine wave and body facing. Really nice diagram of sine wave and stuff there. So there's some really awesome things in here. Hand and foot parts. Forming a fist and a knife hand. So it's a really worthwhile reading through this book. For those of you who have it, make sure you read it. Don't just put it on your shelf, and try and figure some of that stuff out. If you've got any questions, feel free to come to class and ask them, or flick me an email and ask questions. Visitors, thank you so much for coming. It's been awesome having you. I'll look forward to seeing everybody. It's awesome seeing my guys as well. So thanks so much for a good turnout, folks. Hope you enjoyed it, got a little bit out of it, as well as hopefully worked up a little bit of the sweat. And I look forward to seeing you. We've got a class on Saturday that's a bit more junior stuff at 11 o'clock. You're welcome to come to our 5 o'clock classes, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. That's more the kid-friendly stuff, a bit more junior stuff. And these classes, of course, Tuesdays and Thursdays at 6. We look forward to seeing you next class. Ciao, man. Take a look. Thanks, everybody. Good night.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Hope that was okay for you, sir.
No, it was brilliant. Thank you. It was good to go over those turning. It's been a while since I've actually sat down and actually looked at them properly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.